It's very important to start thinking, those people who are oppressed, those Muslims who are struggling, in any time, in any place, how do they prepare themselves for their freedom? What should they do while they are waiting? Because they shouldn't just be sitting around. What should they do to prepare themselves for the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the keys and say, here, I'm opening the door for you, go.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ولما توجه تلقاء مدين قال عسى ربي أن يهديني سواء السبيل. ولما ورد ماء مدين وجد عليه أمة من الناس يسقون ووجد من دونهم امرأتين تذودان قال ما خطبكما قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء وأبونا شيخ كبير. فسقى لهما ثم تولى إلى الظل فقال رب إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. فجاءته إحداهما تمشي على استحياء قالت إن أبي يدعوك ليجزيك أجر ما سقيت لنا. فلما جاءه وقص عليه القصص قال لا تخف نجوت من القوم الظالمين. قالت إحداهما يا أبت استأجره إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. قال إني أريد أن أنكحك إحدى ابنتي هاتين على أن تأجرني 8 حجج فإن أتممت 10 فمن عندك وما أريد أن أشق عليك ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصالحين. اللهم لم نكن بدعائك ربنا شقيين. اللهم لن نتوقف عن دعوتك. اللهم يا مجيب الدعاء يا قريب يا من يعلم السر وأخفاه يا علام الغيوب تعلم الجرح الذي أصابنا وتعلم القرح الذي حل بنا وأنت أعلم به منا لا نشتكي من رحمتك. اللهم نسألك قهرك وجبروتك على الظالمين. اللهم عليك بالظالمين. اللهم عليك بهم. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تلين قلوبهم حتى يفتحوا الإغاثة لإخواننا. اللهم افتح لإخواننا أبواب الإغاثة يا رحمن يا رحيم يا فتاح. افتح لهم من أبواب رحمتك وإغاثتك. اللهم أسقهم الغيث ولا تجعلهم من القانطين. اللهم إنا نسألك لكل طفل بكاه أن تجبر خاطره، أن تيسر أموره، أن تفرج كروبه، أن تجعل والديه الموتى في جنات النعيم. اللهم اجعل موتاهم شهداء. اللهم ارحمهم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم يا مفرج الكروب فرج كروبهم. قلت وقولك الحق، إن مع العسر يسرا. نسألك يا رحمن أن تيسر على الموتى والمصابين والجرحى والمرضى، إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم من أراد بالإسلام والمسلمين كيدا فاتركه مع كيده. اللهم لا تتركه ودمره تدميرا. اللهم أنت القوي المتين ونحن ضعفاء، ليس لنا ملجأ سواك، ليس لنا سلاحا إلا الدعاء، ليس لنا سلاحا إلا أصواتنا يا مجيب. اللهم دعوناك فاستجب. وصل اللهم وسلم على حبيبك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الفتاح العليم، عالم الغيب والشهادة، الحي القيوم. وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today we continued from the theme and the story, which I said before and I'll say again, is the most important story to understand as we go through these circumstances that we are going through today, is the story of Musa and Fir'aun. The story that keeps repeating itself across history, across time, again and again. In today's part of the story, it's a strange part of the story because Musa alayhi salam, he leaves the place of conflict. He leaves the battlefield. This is the man who 10, 20 years from now, he's going to free his people from oppression. It's very important to start thinking, those people who are oppressed, those Muslims who are struggling, in any time, in any place, how do they prepare themselves for their freedom? What should they do while they are waiting? Because they shouldn't just be sitting around. What should they do to prepare themselves for the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the keys and say, here, I'm opening the door for you, go. Musa alayhi salam leaves Egypt after having killed somebody by mistake, by error. He leaves Egypt and he doesn't know which way he's going. He has no idea. He has no food, no clothes. According to Abdullah ibn Abbas, he's living off leaves from trees and bush on the way, random things he can pick up on the way. And by the time he reaches Madian, Abdullah ibn Abbas narrates, his stomach is stuck to his back because of how hungry he is. He walks across the desert barefooted. His feet are burnt. He's ravished, he's hungry, he's exhausted. And he sits down under the shade of a tree. This is the new city to him. He knows nobody, he has no connections, he has nobody, he has nothing. But as he arrives at this city and he reaches the center of the city, sees a large group of people fighting in order to get water. Large groups of men competing with each other to get water. And he sees far on the side 2 women under the shade of a tree, just waiting with their cattle. If you and me were in this situation, or if most of us were in this situation, we would just sit and relax for a little while under the shade of the tree. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Why should I stand up? If you do that, you are one of those people that's going to make it harder to break free from the oppression. If Musa alayhi salam is going to be the person to free the believers, to free Banu Israel and to take them across the sea, he needs one very important quality. He needs to be able to stand up when he sees something wrong. This was always his quality. When he saw the 2 men fighting, he stood up. When he saw them fighting the next day, he got involved. He cannot be a bystander, someone who just sits on the side and says, you know what, 9 to 5, I'm so busy, life, routine. I'm a hamster on the hamster wheel, I'm running. I'll just wait until I fall off and die and the next person comes instead of me. I don't have the mental power to go and help this person, volunteer there, volunteer my services. Too much headache. Leave me, let them do their thing, I'll do my thing. He doesn't do that. He gets up. And then the second thing, how does he interact with women? You have people they're 2 extremes. People say that any interaction with a woman is haram. And on the other hand, you have people who say complete interaction of all kinds is perfectly fine. And Islam came with the middle. It came to regulate those interactions, but you can't remove them. No society can remove interaction between male and female. But it has to be moderated. He comes to these women in 2 words. مَا خَطْبُكُمَا. What's wrong? The mercy in his heart could not let them stand aside waiting to be fed. Now some young brothers today, if they saw 2 women on the side, they would have probably brought some business cards and said, look, here's my business card. I'll give you a hand, but give us a follow. Give us a ring afterwards. Send us a message. The relationship becomes more than it needs to. He keeps his conversation limited to what he needs to talk to these women. What's wrong? Ma khatbukuma. 2 words. Simple. Not what's your life story. Oh really, that's where you're from. You know my story. Keeps it very simple. Ma khatbukuma. قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء. We cannot feed our cattle until these guys leave. And we have no man with us. Our father is an old man. وأبونا شيخ كبير. Simply, he takes the 2 cattle. He feeds them. He returns them and he disappears. He doesn't wait for his credit. He doesn't wait for some reward. He disappears under the shade of a tree. And now Musa alayhi salam does what he keeps doing at every moment in his life. He talks to Allah. One of the most beautiful du'as of Musa. قال ربي إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. This dua, remember this dua in your time of need. Remember this dua when you have nothing. Oh Allah, I am in need of whatever you have to give me. Our du'as are very specific. I want to marry that person. I want that job. Give me that piece of clothing specifically. Musa alayhi salam is saying, Allah, I have nothing. If you give me anything, I'll be happy. Inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. I need anything you have to give me. Any job, any connection, any place to sleep, I'll be happy. Just give me anything, Ya Allah. But he knows Allah will give him better than what he deserves and better than what he expects. One of those women comes back walking. Tamshi ala istihya, walking with haya. And Musa is noticing this. And this is one of the most important qualities to look for in a spouse. To have modesty, to have shyness, to have shame. She comes walking, according to many scholars of tafsir, she comes walking, covering her face with clothes that are loose, not showing her figure. And Musa alayhi salam, when she comes and she says to him, my father wants to give you a reward for what you have done for us. Musa says, I don't want any reward. But she says, come to meet my father. Musa alayhi salam says, okay, but on one condition. I will walk in front and you walk behind me. And when you want me to turn right, throw a stone to the right. When you want me to turn left, throw a stone to the left. This is a true gentleman. He doesn't want to walk behind a lady because it's not appropriate. He walks in front of her. He also has haya. He also has modesty. He also has a sense of shame. Look at the appropriate interaction. He walks back. According to many scholars of tafsir, including Al-Hasan al-Basri, this woman's father is actually a prophet. The Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam. He reaches and he tells him the story of what he has been through. Shu'aib alayhi salam says, don't worry. Here those people have no power. You've come to a safe haven. The oppressed people, one of the highest priorities they have to look after is the education, the tarbiyah, the development of the Muslims, of their people. Because this is the first thing that usually gets put to the side. Banu Israel are slaves. Banu Israel are oppressed. They don't have wealth. They don't have resources. They think, you know what? We're so busy, we just need to survive. We don't have time for this. What Allah is teaching us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Musa out of Egypt for 10 years. For what? He puts him in the same house as another prophet for 10 years. Why? To develop, to learn, to educate himself, to get the skills, to go out of the stressful place to a peaceful place. Madian for Musa was a cave. Madian for Musa was a haven. The Prophet ﷺ, he also had his cave. The people, Ashabul Kahf, the sleepers of the cave in the Quran, we know, in order for you to develop the strength to stand up to oppression, you need time and space and the right people to help you develop. You need a cave. Our children, they need to develop. They need their Islamic education, that holistic education, that gives them the right mindset, the right ideas, the right values. We know what's out there. We know what schools teach our children, and we know that the education system is not ideal. We need to have alternatives. But most of us are too busy in the 9 to 5. We're too busy just surviving. We don't have time to set up these things. This is what we have to make dua for. So often we think about the short-term solution. How can I fix the problems of the ummah? Relax. The solutions are not always quick. Sometimes the solution is slow, it takes time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts Musa in the school of Shu'aib for 10 years. Sit in the school and learn for 10 years. If you stay in Egypt, you're going to every day get into a fight, get into a confrontation. Fir'aun's going to kill somebody, you're going to get angry. It's not a good place for you to develop and learn. This place is going to make you worse. I need to take you to a different place. You need a safe place to study under this Prophet Shu'aib. So too, this is extremely important. In the long run, if the Muslims in any place in the world, in any time in history, if they are to stand up against oppression, the most important thing they need to make and manufacture is not clothes, it's not food, it's not cement, it's not building work. It's not buildings like this. The thing they need to manufacture is people. Muslihin. People who will be part of reforming society and making it better. When Musa a.s. is in Egypt, this is one of the things that he is accused of. When he comes and he tries to intervene between two people, he says, "In turidu illa an takuna jabbaran fil ard." Musa, you just want to be a tyrant. وَمَا تُرِيدُ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُصْلِحِينَ. You don't want to be a muslih, a reformer. This is what we need to generate in every generation. The people that are going to turn the tide, the people that are going to change the situation of the Muslims, is a small group of people called the muslihin, the reformers. The Prophet ﷺ, he talks about this. بدأ الإسلام غريبا. Islam began as something strange, and it will return as something strange as it began. But congratulations to a small group of people, the strangers. The Prophet's companions asked him, who are these strangers, O Prophet of Allah? الذين أصلحوا ما أفسد الناس عن سنتي. They are the people who get up and change things. when they see people have gone on the wrong path. These are the young men and women we need to produce from our children. Our children need to become muslihin. If 20, 30, 50, 60 years from now we want to see change in the ummah, it starts with ourselves. It starts with our children. This is why memorization of the Quran, understanding the stories of the prophets, understanding where they came from, understanding history, loving the companions of the Prophet. If we cannot instill these in our children, we have failed. We have failed. Sheikh Muhammad Ali, on this table, he has talked before about the topic of migration, about the topic of hijrah. Should we stay? Should we leave? What's the long-term strategy for Muslims? But there's a very important point. If we cannot instill these things in our children, they will drown in this environment. Because there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more threatening their identity and their iman. If we cannot make them muslihin, we should go to some safe place like Madian, find somebody like Shu'aib alayhi salam and keep them in a safe place. Just keep them there. Because in an environment where they are threatened all the time, their iman is under threat. We need to give them some alternative. If we fail, then we should not be staying. If we are staying, we need to put in the effort, the time, in order for them to become muslihin. Otherwise, they will become mufsideen. Musa alayhi salam, two skills he has that one of the two girls notices. And as he has a conversation with the father, she says to her father, "Father, employ him, hire him. The best person to hire is Al-Qawiyul Amin." If we want to create this army of muslihin, this group of people who are going to create positive in society and change the bad for the better, inshallah they come from our children, and inshallah we are from them as well. These people have two characteristics. Al-Quwwa, they have strength, they have skills. And number two, Al-Amana, they are trustworthy. It's very easy for you to learn the first. What is Al-Quwwa? Any skill. Learning how to do programming, learning how to give a speech, learning how to plaster the walls. Any skill gives you some kind of strength on this earth, some ability, some way to earn, some way to influence. This is strength. Musa alayhi salam, of course, he's somebody with strength. He has skills. He knows how to talk. He knows how to negotiate. He's already proven to these girls. He's physically strong as well. This is extremely important for young men and women to learn self-defense, to have physical strength, to learn skills. You know, every man in this room, you have to learn self-defense of some sort, the martial arts. You have to equip yourself. You have to learn a skill. Every one of the Prophet's companions had a skill, whether they were doing business, whether they were tailors, whether they were doing silk, whether they were doing haddad, there was someone smelting metal. Everyone had a skill. You cannot be sitting idle. So this is extremely important. Musa alayhi salam has quwwah, he has skills. But skills are easy to learn. There's something much more difficult to learn. The second quality, al-amana, to be trustworthy, to have good character. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives people quwwah, He gives people skills, He gives them strength easily. But something that they struggle to get is al-amana. Exactly. La ba's, inshallah. Someone please help the uncle, inshallah. La ba's. Listen, when uncle is from the muhajirun, uncle is from the muhajirun, from the sabiqun, please don't look at him in this way. Yes, yeah. These devices, they have a life of their own. As uncles from sabiqun, we have to make fatah Allahu alayh. Al-amana. Our children and us living in these countries, we learn a lot of skills. Degrees, GCSEs, A-levels, qualifications, plenty of skills. Trustworthy, character, the fear of Allah. This is very hard to teach, but this is the most important thing to teach. Very often you'll find a parent, they want to scare their children into doing something. If you don't do this, I'm going to call that scary uncle from the masjid. If you don't do this thing, you know what's going to happen. You'll get this, you'll get that, you'll get this. The moment that child is away from the parent, they're going to do what they want because they're scared of the parent. They're not scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. to instill in a child, in a young man, in a young woman, the value of trustworthiness, of honesty, of being conscious of Allah. This is 1,000,000 times more important than what GCSE grades they have. You know, when a child gets their grades and they come home and they get an E, they get a U, you see the parent like Qiyamah came early. Somebody brought Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment. You know, someone preponed the day of judgment. Today, screaming, crying, what will happen to my children? The same child 2 days ago told a lie. Nobody cares. The same child shoplifted from the local grocery store. You found the same child come home with weed, with a cigarette in the hand. It's okay, he's going through a phase. You caught this child watching pornography on their phone. It's okay, he's going through a phase. Everything is a phase. If a human being does not have amana, character, good character, we will never be able to change anything as a people. We have to teach our children amana. We have to develop amana. These two traits, Musa alayhi salam, he has strength and skills as well as good character, amana. This is what prepares him to stand in front of the Pharaoh of Egypt. This is what prepares him to lead the army out of Egypt. This is what prepares him to have patience when the fighting and the killing happens. These two things. He stays under the mentorship of Shu'aib for 10 years. Anybody who wants to be a muslih, you want to reform society, you want to be a cause for positive change, you want to remove the oppression, you need a mentor, you need a sheikh, you need a teacher, you need to learn, you need to study, you need to memorize, you need to get experiences, and you need the guidance of someone senior. And if you don't have that, you will not rectify the earth, you will destroy. There are so many people today. They study Islamic knowledge, but they use it as a gun to destroy people, to refute them, to attack them, to take them down, to hate, to spread anger, division, disunity. And you have people, they take Islamic knowledge from the right teachers, the right mentors, and they come and they change society. They completely transform society. We have to play the long game. As Muslims, we are reactionary. When something happens in the world, we want to share pictures of children. We want to share angry posts. We want to run and scream in the streets. There are short-term things we can do, but we have to play the long game. We have to be smart and strategic. What is the most important thing that a people can do if they want to overturn the tide of oppression? We have to produce muslihin. In Ramadan, when an advert comes, charity advert, hungry child with flies buzzing around us, all of us will give £100. A madrasa, local Islamic institution, is raising money to produce such young men and women. Nobody will invest in education. Everyone wants to invest in hungry children. We want to solve poverty, we want to solve hunger. But we don't want to solve education. If we do not, most of us as parents, we ourselves struggle to give our children that education that they need. Then we have to invest. We have to invest in the institutions, in the schools, Islamic universities, Islamic madrasas. Otherwise, we'll end up in a situation 20 years down the line, none of our children know their values, but they all have skills, they all have professions, they're all earning well, but they're doing nothing. They've had social mobility, they've progressed financially, but their ethics, their heart, their taqwa has regressed and gone back. We have to really think carefully, what are we producing in the next generation? And we have to really be worried, where are we investing our time and money and energy? There is no Banu Israel without Musa. There is no crossing the sea without Musa. And there is no Musa without Shu'aib, his teacher. And there's no Musa without Madian, his school, where he would go, boarding school, go and stay there for 10 years, come back ready to change the world. How many of us are going to implement this in our own lives, in our children's lives? We have to play the long game. We have to create the reformers, the Salahuddins, the Nuruddin Zengis, the Umar ibn Khattabs, the Abu Bakrs. They will come from our children and grandchildren. But we have to start building now, so that 100 years down the line, Salahuddin comes from our great-grandchildren. وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وصبحكم الله بالخير والعافية والسلام عليكم.